In this video, I want to talk about a quilt that I'm making for a Christmas quilt, and it's a Spirograph quilt. Now, this is my new, old, 1916 Singer Model 66-1 because it was in a treadle, but now that I have it set up as a hand crank, it's a 66-3. And these are squares that and flannel batting that I'm going to be putting together in squares. Now, to make this quilt, you need 140 squares, and you're going to do 10 squares across and 14 rows down if you decide to do this. These are 5-inch squares, so each square, when it's stitched together, ends up being 4.5. So it'll be, just over 40-something inches left to right, and I think mine come out about 60 long, maybe 64, but it's 10 by 14, and you can use any size square you want, so you can make it bigger or smaller or more detailed, whatever you want to do. But that's my basic template for this quilt. So I have 140 scrap fabric squares, and I have 140 very pale green sheet squares, and this is flannel batting. Now, I thought flannel was going to go through Model 20s very easily, and I found out this morning it doesn't. I mean, it does. I can quilt with flannel, but I get drop stitches. So I have a couple of other Model 20 things that I still have to finish. But for this quilt, I decided I wanted to make it a lock stitch quilt and done on the 66-1/3. So, it's a Christmas quilt. I went through a bunch of different images that I might be able to put on top of a simple X quilted square. And so the process is put your 3 layers together and then quilt each square with an X. And what that does is just hold it together. But then, instead of using the pretty fabric side as the up top side, I'm going to use the green side. And I have a hand carved block that I could block print spirographs on. And that was kind of a process to get a hand carved block of a spirograph, because they're somewhat difficult. But because of what I've run into with the paint and the fabric ink and fading a little bit in the wash, it's more that it flakes off. So I'm thinking, well, let's make this not like that. You know, I right now for this quilt want a quilt that I can just kind of use without it being delicate. But at the same time, I want to put spirographs on it. So I have 2 ways I can do that. The first step, obviously, is you make all your blocks so that you have blocks like this, and you'll have 140 of them. Then you have 2 methods of putting spirograph on there. These 2 pen wraps hold my pens, my spirograph pens. I have specific pens for spirograph. And you would need, if you're going to do them in ink, you would need, this is the anniversary collector tin, and the only reason you need this one is because the wheels, and I can't get the tin open right now, the wheels are metal. So what you can do with that one is take some push pins, put the metal wheel on top of your square, like that. Take the whole wheel out, put your push pen through the wheel, through an old cardboard top, and hold the whole thing in place, and then do your spirograph in ink right on the block before you sew the quilt together. So that's one method. The other method is with crayons. And I just dropped something I have to show you, but with the crayons, I've talked about this before, where you draw an image in crayon. You then flip it over and place the crayon side down on brown paper or copy paper, and you go over it with, I think I use a dry iron on medium setting. And what that does is get all the wax out of the image, and you're left with the pigment on the cloth. So here's an eagle I've done like that. So that's obviously a more filled in image. And I've done quite a bit in crayon now. And this will soften up as you wash it in any wash. It may fade a little bit, but it actually will look like an old storybook. I mean, it's a beautiful effect. But for Spirograph, I'm not sure I want it to fade like that. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to use ink or whether I'm going to use crayon. Now, if you're going to use crayon, here is the set you need. And I got these at Amazon. It's a Spirograph coloring set. I think I paid $8.95. I can't remember. I bought a few of them. And you've got all these. There's 24 different Spirograph pages to color. Some of them are very busy. Some of them are more plain. But you've got 24 different designs that you can pick out. You would then color them in crayon, and like I said, turn them crayon side down on your fabric. Go over the whole thing with an iron, and that will put your Spirograph in crayon on your fabric. Now, if I do it this way, I am going to use the black and add some of the black lines. And of course, on a coloring book, you usually don't put all the black lines in, but I'm going to put some of them in if I do it that way. So that is two different ways, two different methods of putting spirographs on quilts. One with ink and one with crayon. But now, the crayon might be more permanent if you're thinking of permanence. I'm not positive of that, but I had made an apron with Spirograph on it. This has been washed several times. They are still there. They have not washed out. These are in ink, but they have faded. So I think it depends on the effect that you're looking for. If you want it brighter and more solid, I would use the crayon. And if you want it airy and more like a delicate snowflake or a delicate Christmas ornament, I would use the pen. So two different methods, not very expensive. This particular set is expensive. It was like $32 or something like that. I don't know, maybe less than that. I can't get it open right now. It's hard to open even when I'm not holding a camera. Now, I say the metal wheels because the metal wheels do not bend or shift. And so if you're going to put the push pins in the fabric anyway, then the metal wheel is less likely to shift, I think, than the plastic. Some of my Spirograph plastic wheels have gotten a little warped. And of course the metal set won't do that. If the only set you have is plastic, you could probably use the plastic. And those are, of course, less expensive. There's a design tin for about $8 or $9, which gives you a real variety of Spirograph wheels and rings. So 2 rings and a bunch of wheels in the design set. So this is going to be the spirit of Christmas. And it's going to remind me of ornaments and what are those very fancy sugary candy string things and all the wonderful things of Christmas. And I'm doing it on the red eye because the red eye is like a Christmas machine. It's got red and green on it and gold, and it's a beautiful old machine. So this is a Spirograph Christmas quilt idea.